Hello everybody. Next up, we return home from up north where we're going to play host to Chelsea. Kick-off is 12:30 lunchtime, engineering work all over the place, and, well, I'd leave now if I were you. Well, if not even earlier. So Chelsea then. They now are, of course, no longer a money laundry for dubious Russian interests, it having taken the invasion of Ukraine for the authorities to twig that Abramovich's billions might not have been the cleanest of investments into the UK in the first place. The current owners are headed up by Todd Boehly, whose name is straight out of one of those sitcoms they're so fond of across the pond, where the poor downtrodden dad has rings run around him by his wife and kids. You can almost hear him saying, "Hi honey, I'm home." Now, there are some similarities between the Boehly Group and the Abramovich regime. Not financially, of course, I should make that quite clear. No. Please get your lawyers off me now. No, I was thinking more of the fact that managers aren't given an awful lot of wriggle room over there. Thomas Tuchel was sacked 3 days after they'd beaten us, only with the assistance of one of those refereeing and VAR combination decisions that stunk the place out. With Chelsea having won 3, drawn 1 and lost 2 up to that point, the arrival of Graham Potter was designed to prompt some sort of revival. And for a few weeks it looked like that might just be the case. The Potter era started off with wins over Palace, Wolves and Villa. However, the calibre of the opponent seemed to have covered up a few deficiencies during that period, and they were found wanting in the run-up to the break as soon as they came across anyone half useful, as defeats to Brighton, Arsenal and Newcastle showed. Since the World Cup break, the pattern has been rather similar. They've got wins or draws over the likes of Bournemouth, Forest, Palace and Liverpool, but been defeated by Fulham and Man City, all of which has left them in 9th place with 30 points from 21 games. They did have a better time of it in the so-called Champions League, where they qualified quite comfortably for the knockout stages. Now, having enjoyed the splendid hospitality of our Geordie friends last weekend, this match was probably the last one Daisy wanted to face, given that she's still hungover. Shortly before she went back to bed, she staggered away from her research to inform me that, as is their wont, they bought in players worth something like £285 million in the winter window. £32 million of that went on Benoit Badiashile. The 21-year-old arrived from Monaco early on in the window. He's been capped twice at full level by the French, but didn't feature in the World Cup, which makes £32 million look a lot of money. Not that that's ever been something they've been particularly worried about. Paid a lot less for David, not Wesley, Fofana. The 20-year-old striker arrived from Molde and has made just the 2 goalless appearances thus far for Chelsea. Chelsea's habit of signing youngsters on long-term deals has been viewed as a way of circumventing FFP rules, with the costs being amortised over the length of the contract. UEFA have in fact announced a 5-year limit to amortisation for future deals, thus ensuring that Chelsea will be the last to get away with such practices. 18-year-old Andre Santos arrived on an £18 million deal from Vasco da Gama. He's probably been recruited as one for the future, particularly since his contract ties him to Stamford Bridge until he's 150, I expect. The poor beleaguered chaps at Shakhtar Donetsk, whose badge includes a pair of crossed hammers, trivia fans, were enriched to the tune of £62 million, rising to something like £89 million with add-ons, in return for the services of Mikhailo Mudryk. The right-footed but often played on the left winger arrived on a deal which has made him the most expensive Ukrainian player of all time, his fee being £10 million greater than that paid by Man United for Fred. And there's more. We'll gloss over the £26 million they paid for French under-21 defender Malo Gusto on the grounds that they immediately loaned him back to Lyon, and we'll move on to the record £106 million plus fee paid to Benfica for Argentinian World Cup midfielder Enzo Hernandez. Winner of the Young Player of the Tournament, Gong, in Qatar, his contract takes him through to 2031, though I'm willing to bet that he won't be at Chelsea by then. The interesting thing about his move is that it's been used to establish the starting going rate for Declan Rice, with any club wanting to sign our skipper being told that they'll have to blow the Fernandes figure out of the water. We'll see. Let's move on, shall we, to the wild and wacky world of association football. Manchester City have been hit with over 100 charges relating to financial irregularities. These include, amongst many others, the inflating of so-called sponsorship deals from businesses effectively controlled by Man City's owners, in order to disguise money pumped into the club by the owners, which is in contravention of sustainability rules. UEFA bottled a raft of similar charges a couple of years ago, with the citizens making good on their implied threat to use their bottomless pockets to litigate the hell out of the whole thing. The gist was something like, "We can afford the best lawyers in the world for as long as it takes. How much can you afford, UEFA?" Subsequent leaked emails from City's legal team expressed delight at the passing of one of the UEFA investigators. "One down, 6 to go" was the phrase. That gave another clue to the attitude of those involved. It is to be hoped that the Premier League is made of sterner stuff and stick to their guns. At the very least, it's to be hoped that they pursue the case with all the vigour that they're known to do when applying other rules to situations, even to which they're not meant to apply. I wouldn't hold my breath, though, given the authorities' history in dealing with other clubs in the northwest of England, with major skeletons in cupboards. Meanwhile, if anyone is looking for work, you could do worse than dropping a line to the FA's independent commissions. Between Man City and Ivan Toney, they've got nearly 400 charges to address, so they could probably do with a few extra on the head count. And I see the so-called Super League has raised its ugly head again. This time they've decided they'd like to invite 80 clubs to join on merit. Now, the one reason I can see for doing this is to ensure that Liverpool, Chelsea and Spurs can all qualify, as on current form they'd just about be in the top 80 of European clubs. Maybe. Give it half a season and let's see if they expand it to 100 just to make sure. And so to us. Good point last week, I thought. Damned awful start, mind. Someone should tell them that the whistle isn't a 5-minute warning. Having said that, it was pleasing to see that we knuckled down to work our way back into the game. The equaliser, when it came, was thoroughly well deserved, and in the 20 minutes or so either side of the interval, we had other chances. The last 15 or so, they came at us, much as one might expect from a high-flying side, but the midfield and defence were resolute. The match provided suitable backup for that current exchange rate of 2 Fernandezes to the Rice, whilst Aguirre continues to show how much we missed him at the start of the season. That tackle on Wilson was something special. On the injury front, Mr. Moyes' comments suggest that there are unlikely to be any further returns amongst the group, which comprises Zuma, thigh, Areola, thigh, Scamacca, knee. To those we can add Kehrer, whose tight hamstring, or thigh, saw him subbed off at the interval up at Newcastle. As for Cornet, I can't work out if he's been training or if he's gone back to France. My worry is that Mr. Moyes doesn't know either. So I suppose I'd better move on to the prediction then. Now, Leeds getting a point at the ever untrustworthy Man United did us absolutely no favours in midweek, though I suppose it looked a lot worse when Leeds were 2-0 up. We'll need to maintain our slow return to form that we've been displaying of late. For all the money spent by the visitors, they do appear to lack some form of singularity of purpose whenever I see them, and I genuinely believe there's something to be taken out of this game. I was thinking of plumping for a draw, but the more I think about them, the more annoyed I get at the disgusting refereeing we got over at their place in the return fixture earlier this season. If our team can get even 1% as wound up as I am, I can see us prevailing. So the £2.50 that I would have spent on chipping in towards Manchester City's legal costs will instead be wagered at Winston the Turf Accountants on a home win. Let's call it 1-0 to us, shall we? Enjoy the game.
We're here in the offices of a Late Late Show with the host of a Late Late Show, James Corden.
Hi.
Big West Ham fan.
Yes. And big knees up Mother Brown, man.
Yeah.
Get on the forum at kumb.com. Come on, you irons.